Hello and welcome. Welcome again. Sounds like some sort of introduction to kids show. Welcome to Beau's neighborhood. Get comfortable. It's story time. Today we're going to be talking about consciousness. This is the 6th video in the series. I may stop numbering these because I'll probably end up forgetting. But there's some pretty big concepts I want to cover, and we've gotten into the mind and fear, love, and of course understanding these areas, the true intent. I feel as though the intent of, say, fear and love have been kept from our understanding and controlled. And of course the mind is very good at that, at controlling our focus and controlling concepts and pathways and patterns and so on. But what about consciousness? What is consciousness? Oh, and by the way, you can check out all of this material at awayunseen.com. There's a free PDF download. I wrote a book that it has all this in there, but it's more digestible in a video. And with me talking, I found that people respond to that a little more. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is born through awareness of self, understanding oneself. So for example, a dog can become conscious of itself. Now, I'm not saying a dog is going to start talking or making YouTube videos about consciousness, but consciousness is slowly born through awareness of oneself, and it can exist in any form. It can exist with a dog, it can exist in a person, and we see it through awareness of our patterns and our mind and our reality. And consciousness is raised by asking why. Choosing to ask why one's reality looks the way it does, why one makes YouTube videos, why one looks the way they do, talk the way they do, wear what they do. Becoming aware of your patterns in your mind, especially, okay, your mind, because that's our main projection. That's our main lens that we send out into the universe, and it comes back in a form that our eyes recognize, but our being doesn't truly understand. We're more in a reaction mode when we're just in our eyes and projecting from the mind. But consciousness is born through asking why and becoming aware of our patterns and why we do what we do. And it's much like a flashlight. It's like shining a flashlight on areas that you haven't looked at in a long time. So for me, for example, and I would feel confident in saying this would be true for many of you out there, that consciousness is born and can be used to see areas of the mind, see literal areas that we store in the back of our minds. We physically store them back there. Our brain it's like a hard drive, and it has the ability to remember all experiences, any sensory, anything we see, hear, taste, touch. It stores it. I don't know if you've seen the movie Inside Out. Very similar to that. Memories are stored, and we're able to access these memories using our mind. And we can pull up memories, and we can literally scan around environments. It's actually quite amazing. Consciousness is used to understand these areas and begin to shed light into areas that we're not as familiar with. Consciousness can represent thought, projecting thought to within our own heads. Consciousness can represent a flashlight to understand our minds, our mind's eye, focus, where we apply focus, fears, our primary fears. And consciousness, I would say, is slowly raising on the planet right now. We're becoming aware of some of the systems that have been installed around us. None of those are, I would say, as important as understanding the mind. I feel as though you can look at the money system, you can look at schools, you can look at language. The mind is the system I believe is the inspiration in doing these videos that we may choose to shed more consciousness to, right? Looking at the way in which the mind can be controlled and the way in which the mind controls our reality and why we choose it. But consciousness is raising on the planet, and that's being born through people looking around and maybe not so much looking inward, right? Sort of opening ourselves up. That's the next step of our evolution. More of us doing that and raising our consciousness. That will literally raise consciousness of the planet as you begin to ask questions of yourself and why your reality looks the way it does, and why you choose what you do and how you interact with others. But consciousness is being raised, and we're beginning to look around and ask each other, do we need, what is money? For example, money runs the world, and no one seems to want to talk about it. Why our realities look the way they do. We typically begin to ask questions when there's a problem. All right, it's status quo. It's going along, and then there's a problem. There's like a flux in the matrix, and we look around and we go, yeah, do we need that? Or yeah, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. Are we really stripping everything off the planet to try and create to funnel it to a currency? Is that really what we want to do? Currency or not currency? Consciousness. That's another video. Consciousness is being raised on the planet, and that's by choice. And it's very important that we understand that choosing to see ourselves. And I get asked a lot, well, choose to see yourself, like look in the mirror. Is this what you're talking about? Choosing to see yourself may involve looking in the mirror and understanding who you are, your physical print, the way in which you project yourself, right, to the world for others to see. But seeing yourself is more truly defined by choosing to see areas that we hold that are difficult for our eyes to see. Looking inward and asking why, and accessing areas of the mind that aren't as accessible in the outer layers. So, for example, what we see throughout the day, the process that we use for choosing and actions and movements, so that's usually in the reaction layers of the mind, the outer layers. Choosing to see other layers, using consciousness to access those areas, typically comes when we slow everything else down and we choose to feel and wait a moment, right? Our minds just want to grab every moment. Wait a moment and just release, right? Giving yourself a moment to breathe and let the day out, even right in the middle of the day or right when you wake up, and choosing to ask, why am I doing this? Do I need to wake up and grind until I don't feel every day? Do I need to, why am I drinking? Why am I doing drugs? Why do I feel this way? There's a lot of ways to raise consciousness. And we typically find that we get windows, and those windows are maybe through an injury or through an event or a moment that startles us and allows us to see a break in the pattern. And so consciousness is understood in this way. And I use consciousness as just awareness, right? Something happens, I don't react right away unless I'm getting like stung by a bee or something. That's real time. Consciousness is the ability to reflect back and to look at areas and shine light in areas that are very difficult to see, and asking why, and choosing to evolve and grow, right? Grow areas that are not our minds. Grow areas that are our bodies, right? Our beings and our hearts. It's not all about the mind. This reality and the world we've built is very much projected and built through the mind. If you ever wonder why it is the system around us looks the way it does, simply look at the projections from your mind and the minds of others. We're all in it together. We're creating a combined reality on third density. We're creating this bubble reality that is heavily weighted in fear, and we may choose to evolve out of it. And I believe the next step for us is consciousness and choosing to see ourselves and creating a reality outside the reaches of the mind. The next stage in our evolution is not with the mind. We may choose to evolve out of that space, out of that control. Thank you again for joining me. This has been another Beau Talk, consciousness, and choose to see yourself. Ask why. Ask why you're playing piano. Ask why you're making videos. Ask why your reality looks the way it does. You may find that consciousness, I feel like I'm selling consciousness, but consciousness is key to seeing yourself. Shed light on areas that are difficult to see.